Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Please note that this AI-generated podcast is intended solely for general learning and educational purposes. While we strive to ensure accuracy, the AI may occasionally produce errors or incomplete information. We strongly encourage you to consult qualified professionals and conduct your own due diligence before making any legal, financial, or business decisions based on the content presented here. Also, if you find this content valuable, we kindly request you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to receive updates on future episodes. Let's begin.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a world where these groundbreaking medical innovations are constantly pushing the boundaries, right? Especially in areas like cancer treatment. Huge R&D, life-saving stuff.
Absolute. Billions invested.
But what happens when those very products, the ones designed to save lives, become the focus of these intense legal battles over, intellectual property?
Yeah, it's a real tension.
Today, we're diving deep into a really fascinating and I think incredibly significant case. It pits a global pharma giant against a major Indian life sciences company.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just about dry legal stuff. It's really about the future of affordable, innovative treatments and how we strike that balance,
Correct.
Protecting innovation versus ensuring public access.
Indeed. And this deep dives, it focuses on a recent judgment from the High Court of Delhi, a really complex patent infringement suit. The drug itself is cutting-edge cancer therapy. And what's so fascinating here is how it touches on these core principles of patent law, the nuances of biopharma development, and that delicate dance, as you said, between innovation and public health.
That dance, yeah.
We'll explore not just the what to the ruling, but really get into the why it matters and, the bigger implications for the whole pharmaceutical landscape, especially for complex biologics like the one here. It's high stakes.
Very high stakes. Okay, so let's get everyone grounded. Who are the key players in this legal drama? What was the case number, the court, the judge? Lay out the foundational details for us.
Crucial starting point, definitely. So the case we're dissecting is COMM 376-2024.
Okay.
And that also includes IA 10533-2024. That IA number, that's the specific application for the interim injunction we'll talk a lot about.
Got it. Injunction application.
Exactly. The judgment itself was delivered by the Honorable Justice Mini Pushkarna.
Justice Pushkarna.
Yes, at the High Court of Delhi in New Delhi. And the date for this ruling was July 18th, 2025.
July 18th, 2025. Right. Okay. And the parties.
Right, the contenders. So on one side, the plaintiffs, you have Squibb and Sons, LLC Ors. Ors meaning others. They're the innovators.
The ones who developed the drug.
Precisely.
Right.
Represented by a, frankly, formidable legal team. Senior advocates like Mr. Sandeep Sethi, Mr. P.S. Raman, Mr. Amit Sibal, plus a whole team.
Big guns.
Big guns, yeah. And plaintiff number 3 in that group is important. They're the ones actually importing and marketing the drug in India under the brand name Optiti.
Optiti in India, okay. And on the other side?
The defendant. That's Zydus Lifesciences Limited. You might know them by their former name, Cadila Healthcare Ltd.
Ah, right, Cadila. Major Indian player.
Huge. And their legal team was just as robust. Senior advocates, Mr. Harish Salve, Mr. Dushyant Dev, Mr. Rajiv Nayar, Mr. Dhyan Krishnan, again with a large supporting team.
So truly pharma titans squaring off. What was the immediate goal here? The injunction application, what were the plaintiffs trying to achieve right then and there?
Good question. The immediate objective, the core of this specific judgment, was that interim injunction. Think of it like hitting pause.
A temporary stop button.
Exactly. They were asking the court to temporarily stop Zydus from making, using, selling, importing, basically dealing in their product. Why? Because they believed it infringed their patent.
So stop them before the main trial even finishes.
Precisely. The argument was, look, if Zydus launches commercially now, it'll cause us irreparable harm while the main infringement case is still going on. It's a critical move in these kinds of disputes, especially when a competitor looks like they're about to enter the market.
Makes sense. Okay, let's get to the core of it. What is this incredible innovation they're fighting over? What's the science? Why is this drug so important against cancer?
Right. Understanding the science is key to understanding the fight. The whole suit revolves around Indian patent number NN340060.
Yeah.
We'll just call it NN06.
NN060. Got it.
The title tells you a lot. Human monoclonal antibodies to program DEath1, PD1, for use in treating cancer.
Okay, PD1 antibody.
Yeah. This patent is registered to the plaintiffs, and at the time, it was valid and active. The product it covers, the star of the show, is a specific monoclonal antibody called Nivolumab.
Nivolumab.
Also sometimes referred to as 5C4 in the technical documents.
Mhm.
Its whole structure, its function, it's all claimed in EN A060. And Nivolumab, it's not just any drug, it's a therapeutic antibody. Critical, life-saving really, for treating various cancers.
Like which ones?
We're talking major types: non-small cell lung cancer, kidney cancer, head and neck cancer, melanoma, Hodgkin lymphoma. The list goes on. It's a real game changer in oncology.
Wow, so major drug. Walk us through the science of it. What's PD-1 and how does Nivolumab mess with it to help fight cancer?
Absolutely. It's pretty elegant, actually.
Mhm.
Our immune system, has T cells. Think of them like soldiers hunting down bad cells, including cancer cells.
Right.
Now, cancer's tricky. Cancer cells often put a protein on their surface called PD-L1, programmed death ligand 1.
PD-L1.
And our T cells have a receptor called PD-1, programmed death 1. PD-1 acts like a brake or a checkpoint on the T cell.
An off switch.
Kind of, yeah. When PD-1 on the T cell connects with PD-L1 on the cancer cell, it tells the T cell, stop, don't attack. It deactivates the T cell response against that cancer cell.
So the cancer cell basically puts up a don't attack me sign.
Exactly. It's a disguise, fooling the immune system. The T cells are essentially blindfolded to that cancer cell.
Okay, so how does Nivolumab take off the blindfold?
That's the brilliance. Nivolumab is what's called a monoclonal antibody. Lab-engineered, highly specific. It's an anti-PD-1 antibody.
Anti-PD-1.
Right. It works by binding directly to the PD-1 protein on our T cells. It physically gets in the way, stopping PD-1 from connecting with the cancer cell's PD-L1.
So it blocks the don't attack signal?
Precisely. It removes the brake on the T cell. This allows our own immune system to recognize the cancer cell as a threat again and destroy it. It's immunotherapy, using the body's own defenses. Hugely revolutionary compared to just chemo or radiation.
That is amazing. Okay, what about the patent itself? How long does it last? When was it granted?
Good questions. The patent term is 20 years. Standard stuff. It started May 2, 2006, which means it's set to expire May 2, 2026.
So not much time left, relatively speaking.
Exactly, which adds urgency. It was formally granted on July 1st, 2020, but importantly, it faced a real fight before grant. 4 pre-grant oppositions.
War.
Yeah, under Section 25 of the Patents Act.
Oh.
All were rejected, but it shows the patent was heavily scrutinized right from the start. And even after grant, a post-grant opposition was filed by Zydus Lifesciences Limited, a sister company of the defendant. That opposition is actually still pending.
Still pending. So the validity fight continues elsewhere.
Correct, and commercially. Outside India, Nivolumab is known as Optivoid, big blockbuster drug. In India, plaintiff number 3 imports and sells it as Optite. Huge global significance.
Okay, so we have the players, the drug, the patent, but this wasn't just a sudden lawsuit, right? There's a history, a timeline of moves and counter moves. Walk us through that legal chess match.
Absolutely critical to understand this sequence.
Okay.
It really sets the stage for the court's reasoning. Let's start way back with the patent application.
Okay.
The Indian application for IN Lato 06, number 5057, CH-EGMP 2007, was filed May 2, 2006. It was a national face entry from an international PCT application.
PCT, international route.
Yeah, filed internationally also on May 2, 2006. And that application claimed priority even further back to several U.S. provisional applications filed between May and December 2005.
So the roots go back almost 2 decades.
Easily. Now, those pre-grant oppositions we mentioned, 4 of them, filed by groups like the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, Dr. Reddy's Labs.
Big names.
Yeah. All were rejected by the Controller of Patents on June 30, 2020. That paved the way for the grant the next day, July 1st, 2020. But again, it shows the patent survived early challenges.
But the challenges didn't end there. The post-grant opposition.
Exactly. Filed July 1st, 2021 by Zydus Lifesciences Limited, the defendant's sister company. This led to an opposition board recommendation, an OBR, dated January 31st, 2023.
And what did the OBR say?
It actually suggested the patent was invalid. It's just a recommendation, not binding, but still significant.
Okay.
That OBR was then challenged and set aside by the High Court of Madras in March 2024. Zydus appealed that decision, and in June 2024, the Madras High Court Division Bench put the single judge's order on hold. Sort of.
This is getting complicated. Lots of back and forth.
It really is. Finally, in January 2025, that appeal was resolved by consent. Both sides agreed to send the matter back to the single judge in Madras for a faster decision. The key takeaway: the validity challenge at the patent office level is still ongoing.
Wow. So while this Delhi High Court case about infringement was happening, the fundamental question of the patent's validity was still being argued elsewhere. Crazy. How did Zydus' specific actions, the ones leading to this suit, come to light?
Right, the trigger. In April 2022, the plaintiffs found out Zydus had applied for clinical trial approval for Nivolumab with the CDSCO, the Indian drug regulator.
CDSCO.
So the plaintiffs sent a cease and desist letter on May 6, 2022. Standard stuff. Stop using our patented drug.
And Zydus' response?
This is crucial. On May 17, 2022, Zydus responded, invoking the Bolar exemption, Section 107A of the Patents Act.
The Bolar exemption, what's that again?
It basically says it's not infringement to use a patented invention solely for developing information needed for regulatory approval, like clinical trials.
The R&D shield.
Pretty much. Zydus said, we're just doing trials for approval. That's allowed under Bolar. So the plaintiffs, seeing no immediate commercial threat beyond those permitted trials, didn't sue right then.
They accepted the Bolar argument for the time being.
Yes, but they kept investigating. They found Zydus registered a clinical trial for their biosimilar called ZRC3276 with the CTRI, the trial registry.
ZRC3276.
And in that registration, Zydus explicitly named Optivo, the plaintiff's drug, as the reference product, the comparator.
So clearly aiming for a biosimilar of Nivolumab.
Unmistakably. And Zydus got permission to manufacture and import the drug for those clinical trials in September 2022. So development was definitely happening.
Okay, so trials were ongoing. What was the final straw that led to the lawsuit?
The shift from trials to commercial intent. In April 2024, the plaintiffs got wind, through their distribution network and a specific email inquiry, that Zydus might be planning to launch their biosimilar soon during the patent term, not after expiry.
The commercial launch threat.
Exactly. They also found out Zydus had applied for full marketing approval from the regulator. So believing there was now a real, credible, and reasonable apprehension of an imminent unauthorized launch, they filed this suit as a quia timet action.
Quia timet, because he fears acting before the actual infringement happened.
Precisely. A preemptive strike to prevent the damage. And the court granted an interim order quickly on May 8, 2024, stopping Zydus from launching without court permission. That order is still in place. So a slow burn, then rapid escalation once commercial intent seemed clear.
That timeline makes the context much clearer. Okay, so the plaintiffs filed the suit. What was their core argument? Why did they believe infringement was happening or about to happen? And why was the injunction so critical?
They built a comprehensive case, several key pillars. First, a clear prima facie case of infringement and a valid patent. They said, our patent, IN060, is valid, it's active.
Right.
And they cleverly used Zydus' own Bolar argument against them. They said, you admitted your trial activities were exempt under 107A. That implies, commercial use isn't exempt and would be infringement.
Using their own defense against them. Smart.
Very. Second, they tackled the delay argument head on. They said, our cause of action only started in April-May 2024 when we heard about the commercial launch plans. Before that, you were just doing trials under Bolar, so we couldn't sue for commercial infringement then.
So no delay because the type of threat changed.
Exactly. Third, they pointed to the defendant's knowledge and conduct. They said, you knew about our patent. Your sister company filed an opposition. We sent you a cease and desist in 2022.
Hard to claim ignorance.
Right. Plus, they found Zydus' own patent application for purifying anti-PD-1 antibodies, which specifically named Nivolumab. They argued this showed clear intent to work with their drug. They even cited records of Zydus exporting Nivolumab vials over the years, suggesting ongoing activity.
Building a picture of intent.
Definitely. Then, they detailed the patent coverage and specificity. They said Nivolumab is explicitly covered by Claims 1, 3, and 7. Claim 1 details the 6 specific CDR sequences.
CDRs, those are like the antibody's unique fingerprints for binding, right?
Exactly. The really crucial bits that define how it binds to PD-1. Claim 3 covers the broader variable domain sequences, structure basically. Claim 7 is the composition, the drug formulation. They stress their exclusive rights under Section 48 of the Act to stop anyone else making, using, selling, importing it until May 2026. And they preemptively addressed a key point. The word specifically in the claim binds specifically to PD-1. They argued, citing the patent text, that specifically doesn't mean exclusively or only. The patent mentions high affinity, but acknowledges potential for minor, non-substantial cross-reactivity. This was crucial.
Foreshadowing the defendant's arguments there. What about the patent's strength?
They hammered this home. Strength of the patent survived 4 pre-grant oppositions, now in its 20th year. Granted in over 50 countries, never revoked anywhere, Global validation.
That's strong track record.
Very. And they downplayed the OBR that suggested invalidity, saying it's just recommendatory, not binding, and still under challenge anyway.
Right.
A really powerful argument was infringement through biosimilarity. Since Zydus itself claims ZRC 3D276 was a biosimilar of Nivolumab, using Nivolumab as the reference.
Then logically it must have the same core structure.
That was the plaintiff's point. They argued a biosimilar must have the same core amino acid sequences claimed in their patent. They did a claim mapping, comparing their patent claims to the official Nivolumab INN name structure from WHO. Perfect match, they said.
So mapping the patent to the standard definition of the drug.
Yes. And they used Zydus's own test results from Sardar Patel University, which, they argued, actually confirmed both drugs were anti-PD-1 antibodies with high specificity. The slight differences, Zydus noted, just standard variations, not enough to escape infringement.
Using the defendant's data against them again? Ouch.
Finally, balance of convenience and irreparable harm. They argued Zydus wouldn't be harmed by waiting, as they hadn't launched yet. But the plaintiffs would suffer irreparable injury, lost sales, market damage, reputation if an infringing competitor launched, especially with the patent expiring soon. Money wouldn't fix it, they claimed.
A compelling case for protection. Okay, so that's the plaintiff's side. How did Zydus fight back? What was their defense against infringement and the patent's validity?
Zydus mounted a really vigorous, multi-pronged defense. They attacked both infringement and validity. Let's break it down.
Okay.
On non-infringement, their main angle was playing on that word specifically. Remember how the plaintiffs argued it didn't mean exclusively?
Yeah.
Zydus argued the opposite. They said the patent did claim specific binding, implying exclusivity to PD-1. They then presented data showing their product, ZRC 3276, also binds to other proteins in the CD28 family.
Okay, so it binds to more than just PD-1.
Right. But here's the kicker. They argued the plaintiff's own drug, Opdivo, Nivolumab, also binds to those other CD28 family members.
Whoa. So they're saying even the original drug doesn't meet the patent's supposed specificity.
Exactly. Their argument was essentially, if the claim requires binding only to PD-1, then neither our product nor yours actually fits the claim. So you can't enforce against this. It's a clever, if risky, defense.
That is clever. Turning the specificity argument back on them. What else on non-infringement?
They pushed back on biosimilarity versus claim mapping. They conceded ZRC 3276 is biosimilar for regulatory purposes, but argued that doesn't automatically mean patent infringement. Infringement needs precise claim-to-product mapping element by element, which they said the plaintiffs hadn't properly done.
So similar enough for doctors isn't necessarily similar enough for patent law.
That's the gist. They also stressed that Nivolumab is just an INN name, assigned by WHO, not exclusive intellectual property. And while regulators found ZRC 3276 similar for safety and efficacy, that regulatory finding doesn't prove patent infringement.
Okay, so trying to create distance between regulatory similarity and patent infringement makes sense. What about the patent's validity?
Right.
Did they attack that directly?
Oh, yes. Big time. They argued the patent was invalid on several grounds: lack of novelty, section 64(1)E, and lack of inventive step, section 64(1)F.
Basically, it wasn't new and it wasn't clever enough.
Pretty much. They claimed it was non-patentable too, section 64(1)K. Their main weapon here was prior art. They focused heavily on that earlier patent family, WO 2400-4771, which they called D3.
The plaintiff's own earlier patent.
Right. Zydus argued D3 already disclosed or claimed Nivolumab, or at least the process to make it, before the IN Oval 60 patent's priority date. They cited other documents too, D1 to D7, claiming they all revealed key aspects, making IN 060 either not new or obvious.
So trying to show it was already out there in the public domain in a way.
Exactly. They also tried the natural phenomenon argument. They claimed the antibody came from transgenic mice with minimal human intervention, making it a discovery, not an invention. And the technology used, hybridoma, was well known.
Trying to argue it wasn't really invented.
Yeah, and they heavily lean on that OBR, the Opposition Board recommendation from January 2023 that suggested the patent was invalid. They presented it as expert proof of the patent's weakness.
Even though it wasn't binding.
Correct, but they still used it.
Ah.
Finally, they accused the plaintiffs of evergreening or double patenting.
Evergreening. Trying to extend the monopoly unfairly.
That was the accusation. They claimed the plaintiffs had admitted in other legal proceedings, U.S., Japan lawsuits versus Merck over pembrolizumab, that Nivolumab was developed using those earlier patents, the D3 family from 2002. Zydus argued this meant Nivolumab was part of the prior art to IN060, not a new invention deserving its own 20-year patent term. They framed IN060 as an attempt to improperly extend their control.
So, arguing the plaintiffs were trying to get two patents for essentially the same underlying work.
That was the core of the evergreening claim. And on the balance of convenience, Zydus argued it favored them. They pointed to the plaintiffs' alleged delay knowing about the trial since April 2022, but only suing in 2024. They called the plaintiffs' May 2024 email about launch plans self-serving, a manufactured reason to justify the quia timet action late in the game.
So a multi-layered attack. We don't infringe, and even if we did, your patent is invalid anyway, and you waited too long to sue.
Exactly. A full court press defense.
Right. This is where it gets really crucial. How did the judge, Justice Pushkarna, weigh all these complex arguments? What was the court's reasoning on these key points? The delay, the validity, the infringement.
The court went through it meticulously, point by point. Let's start with the delay argument and the quia timet action.
Okay.
The court sided firmly with the plaintiffs here, rejected the delay argument. Why? Because Zydus itself invoked the Bolar exemption back in 2022.
Ah, that comes back again.
It does. The judge said, since Zydus claimed their 2022 activities were only for regulatory approval, protected under Bolar, the plaintiffs were justified in not suing then for commercial infringement. The trigger for the quia timet action was the new information in April-May 2024 about impending commercial launch. That's when the threat changed.
So the court drew a clear line between R&D activity and commercial intent.
A very clear line. The court said Zydus didn't prove the plaintiffs knew about commercial plans any earlier. So, no undue delay in filing the quia timet suit.
Makes sense. What about the big one, patent validity, the novelty, inventive step, prior art arguments?
The court dug deep into the prior art, especially D3, the plaintiff's earlier patent. The finding was critical. While D3 discussed using anti-PD-1 antibodies for cancer, a use patent, it did not disclose the specific amino acid sequences of Nivolumab claimed in AN006.
So D3 had the idea, but not the specific product structure.
Exactly. D3 was the target, INOZ60 was the actual arrow, the specific antibody. The court cited guidelines saying for anticipation, lack of novelty, prior art needs an exact match of the sequence. Zydus didn't show that. The court concluded Zydus failed to demonstrate how any cited prior art truly disclosed or suggested the specific 6 CDRs of Nivolumab.
So the prior art arguments didn't hold up to scrutiny. What about the OBR, the recommendation that it was invalid?
The court reiterated established law. The OBR is just persuasive, not binding. Plus, the challenge to it was still ongoing in Madras. And, importantly, the patent controller had already rejected similar arguments based on the related European patent during the pre-grant stage, finding AN060 novel back then.
So the OBR wasn't seen as a definitive knockout blow?
Not at all. On inventive step, the court agreed Nivolumab was an artificial, man-made antibody created through specific changes in amino acid sequencing. That human intervention constitutes an inventive step, not just a discovery of something natural. The original examiner agreed, too.
So it was deemed a true invention?
Yes. Overall, the court found Zydus failed to raise a credible challenge to the patent's validity at this interim stage. The judge noted the patent's global grant history in 50-plus countries without revocation, reinforcing its strength. The burden of proving invalidity lies heavily on the challenger, and Zydus hadn't met that burden prima facie.
A high bar indeed. Okay, so validity seems strong prima facie. What about infringement, the biosimilarity, the claim interpretation?
This was fascinating. The court leaned heavily on Zydus' own admissions about biosimilarity. Remember, Zydus admitted ZRC 3276 is biosimilar to Nivolumab. The court pointed to the Indian Similar Biologics Guidelines, which state a biosimilar is expected to have the same target amino acid sequence as the reference. So Zydus basically admitted structural similarity by calling it a biosimilar. Their own CTRI application, naming Optivoy as the comparator, further cemented this.
They kind of trapped themselves with the biosimilar label?
It seems that way in the court's analysis. For claim mapping, since Zydus hadn't launched, the plaintiffs mapped their claims to the official Nivolumab INN structure. The court accepted this indirect method in a quia timet case, citing precedents. The mapping showed an identical sequence match.
So the blueprint matched the patent claims?
According to the court's prima facie view, yes. And then the defendant's own tests. This was huge. The court reviewed Zydus's in-house and university tests comparing Opdivo and ZRC3276. The judge concluded these tests, despite Zydus's interpretation, actually showed both drugs were anti-PD-1 antibodies with high specificity to PD-1.
Meaning both fell within the patent's scope.
Exactly. The court dismissed the minor differences in binding affinity. Zydus highlighted as just standard variations in the art, not enough to escape infringement. Their own data undermined their non-infringement argument.
Wow. What about the interpretation of specifically binding? Did the court buy Zydus's exclusive binding argument?
No, it sided with the plaintiffs. The court agreed specifically does not mean exclusively or only. It looked at the whole patent specification, which talks about high affinity, but lacking substantial cross-reactivity, not zero cross-reactivity.
Ah, substantial being the key word.
Precisely. The court said examples in the patent are illustrative, not rigidly limiting. Even Zydus's own trial application described Nivolumab as having high binding affinity, supporting the plaintiff's view.
So the court took a broader, more practical view of the claim language.
It did. It also mentioned the doctrine of equivalence infringement can happen even without identical elements if the core, the pith and marrow, is taken. Since ZRC3276 embodies the patented aspects of Nivolumab, being a highly specific anti-PD-1 antibody biosimilar, infringement was likely. The overall conclusion: a strong prima facie case of infringement.
Okay. And the evergreening double patenting claims?
Rejected. The court clarified the earlier U.S. and Japanese patents Zydus cited were mostly method or use claims, how to treat cancer with anti-PD-1 antibodies, not product claims disclosing the specific Nivolumab sequence. The Merck lawsuit was about those methods, not the Nivolumab product patent itself. The court reaffirmed Nivolumab was a man-made, patentable invention, distinct from the earlier method patents.
So different types of inventions, different patents, no improper extension found.
Correct. Finally, balance of convenience and irreparable injury. The court found strongly for the plaintiffs. Several reasons. Nivolumab is a blockbuster drug, huge revenues, approved globally. Protecting such innovation serves the public interest in having a robust patent system. Then, the failure to clear the way. Zydus knew about the patent, faced opposition from its sister company, got a cease and desist. They should have challenged the patent's validity before gearing up for launch, not after. The court cited several precedents on this clear-the-way principle.
So you can't just ignore a patent and hope for the best.
Pretty much. The quia timet action was justified by the credible threat of launch. Irreparable harm was likely, as money often can't fix market disruption for the innovator, and crucially the concept of tainted goods.
Right, stuff made during the patent term.
The court held that infringing goods made during the patent term can be stopped even after the patent expires. This prevents stockpiling for a day-one launch post-expiry. And given the short remaining patent term, to May 2026, protecting the plaintiffs now was even more critical. All factors pointed towards granting the injunction.
A very thorough analysis. So after weighing all that, what was the final order? What did the judge actually decide, and what does it mean for Zydus right now?
The conclusion was clear. Plaintiffs established a strong prima facie case, balance of convenience favored them, and they faced irreparable harm. So the court granted the interim injunction.
What exactly did it restrain Zydus from doing?
The order was broad. It restrained Zydus Lifesciences Limited and anyone acting for them from manufacturing, using, selling, offering for sale, importing, exporting, advertising, or dealing in any biosimilar of Nivolumab during the pendency of the suit.
So a complete stop to any commercial activity with their biosimilar while the main case proceeds.
A complete stop. But crucially, it went further, addressing that tainted goods point.
How so?
The defendant was also restrained from launching any product manufactured during the patent's term, even after the patent expires.
Wow. So no stockpiling allowed. Anything they made before May 2026, assuming the patent holds, can't be sold even on May 3rd, 2026.
That's the force of it. It prevents that immediate post-expiry market flood with potentially infringing stock made earlier, a very significant part of the ruling.
Definitely sends a message. Any other parts to the order?
Yes. Zydus was ordered to file an affidavit within 4 weeks, disclosing the quantity of the biosimilar product they had already manufactured, for transparency, and to know what stock falls under that tainted category.
Got it. And the court emphasized this is just temporary, right?
Absolutely. The judge explicitly stated these are prima facie findings for the interim injunction only. It doesn't prejudice the final decision on the merits after a full trial. But for now, Zydus is blocked from the market.
And what's the next step?
The case goes back to the roster bench on August 8, 2025, for the main suit to continue. The fight isn't over, but this interim round was a clear win for the plaintiffs.
Okay.
And this case, even though it's an interim order, it really does offer some profound insights into how intellectual property works or sometimes clashes in the biopharma world. It just highlights the massive challenges, the investment needed for these drugs, that constant tension between the innovators and the biosimilar makers, and how courts try to balance it all.
That balancing act, yeah. Gets right to the heart of it. This ruling, even being specific to Nivolumab in India, it really sends ripples across the whole industry, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It shows how companies have to navigate this global maze of patents, the importance of timing your legal challenges, whether you're defending or attacking a patent, and how tiny details in the science, like specific amino acid sequences, get argued over in court. It's way more than just law or science in isolation.
For sure.
It's about patient access, healthcare costs, and fundamentally what incentivizes companies to pour billions into finding the next breakthrough.
Precisely.
So for you listening, what does this all mean? It means behind every new complex drug, especially for diseases like cancer, there's often this incredibly high-stakes story, these intricate legal fights. What really stands out to you from this deep dive? Was it that specifically versus exclusively interpretation?
That was key.
Or maybe the whole clearing the way idea, you can't just ignore a patent.
Oh.
And that tainted goods ruling, stopping the post-expiry flood, that seems huge.
It really does. And it leaves us with this fundamental question, doesn't it? How do we design patent laws globally that properly reward the immense risk and cost of innovation, making sure companies want to develop these life-saving drugs?
Right.
While also making sure that eventually these treatments become accessible and affordable for everyone who needs them. This case, with all its complexity around biosimilarity and validity, it just throws those big societal trade-offs into sharp relief. It's a question that'll keep shaping medicine long after AA060 expires in 2026.